Okay, today we are taking on removing the heater core on this 99 Ranger. Now I got it. They just had a couple of hoses looping back to it. They've got caps on them. There we go. This is the hose that just goes one of the places it goes to the heater and where it comes to the back. So I'm just assuming that the heater core is bad. I figured, yeah, what's the worst that could happen to replace the heater core? Since we'll be working on the inside around the instrument panel, first thing I'm going to do, because this has two airbags, is disconnect the battery. Always pull the negative battery cable off first. The manual says pull the positive battery cable as well, since it's important and I don't want to get an airbag in the face. Even though I don't see there's any way that this thing can pop me, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the positive cable anyway. Doesn't hurt. Here is the heater core. Got some insulation that goes around it. Brand spanking new. Now mine's a little different. My jobs can be a little different since I don't have any coolant in it. You're supposed to drain the coolant, but the only thing I'm gonna have to worry about is the level of coolant up to these hoses. So I will probably drain a little bit later, and I've already got it replaced out. Of course, I don't have any heater hoses connected to it. So the basic gist of all this, and I suggest you watch the videos that other people have on there. You learn a little bit from everybody. Behind here, okay, a couple bolts. I've already had a lot of the plastic out of here because I'm replacing broken pieces in there. There's going to be a bracket right there that's going to come out. This panel is going to come out, the horseshoe in behind that. It says to remove this. I'm going to take a look and see how difficult that is. If it's just a matter of popping this out of here and getting to a couple screws, I will do that. It says take the steering wheel out. I don't think I'm going to try that. This panel, heater panel up there, has got to come out. On the other side, now see, a lot of the videos talk about removing this whole gizmo to get behind the bolts back there, but in my manual it says nothing about that, so we're going to see how it goes. I'm not going to do it if I don't have to. Maybe the 99 is different. You have to pull this side panel, and there's bolts up in there. I'm probably going to pull the glove box just to make it easier. And as we go along, I'll give you my take on this whole thing. You never know, I may figure something out. Like I said, I've got these panels out because they're all broken up. I'm about to replace them. So let me get that battery cable off and see about getting that out of there to start with, and we'll just take it as it goes. Okay, I'm going to travel back in time. Hopefully this will all make sense eventually. I have already removed and reinstalled the heater core, so I'm going to tell you what I took apart at this point, and we'll go over this again as I'm going along through it, but kind of fumble a little bit. So this is the real deal, how it goes down. Fuse panel comes off. These two bolts, these are 13mm heads. Two big bolts there. You can see that there's another two big bolts over here, which are hard to see. You got to use a long extension on those. The steering column, when you take that yoke off, there's two nuts just like it. There's sort of a back yoke. Those two nuts have to come off the back yoke as well. The steering column basically has to flop down to enable that dashboard to come out. Over here to the other side. One more big bolt down there. One shorter bolt right down here. Those are all 13mm. Here's a 7/16. Hold on there. You want to unplug this little vacuum line from that little connector up there. You want to plug
this electrical connector from that little box up there. You want to pull that vacuum connector from that right there. I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big bolts, one little bolt. That'll allow you to drop. The instrument panel comes out. This part will drop down, sit on the seat. This will come out. You have to bring it out, lift up and down and monkey around with it because the air box behind it has to come out, as you'll see, enough to get to the top cover for the heater control box. Alright, so now you'll know where I'm fumbling around, where I'm getting to when I do that. Wow, this feels like I should do a video just on this. So, cup holder right here. It says pry the trim out and remove the rear screws. Well, I didn't find any. That piece of trim in there does not look like it comes out at all. Luckily, I'm looking in the bottom of here and I see this big thing. It looks like a 45 record fastener. The big slot in it. That's a big plastic removal screw. I don't see one. There's none on the other side. I started digging around in there. Somebody put the other one on the other side. There's two. They cover these big screws down at the bottom. Nothing in the manual about that. I haven't seen anybody say anything about that. So I kept prying up on this side and then it kept, I know something's holding it. Look at that. Piece of kick. Sure, it'd be nice if somebody mentioned that, huh? Well, here we go. That's the first little tidbit of information that does not seem to show up anywhere. I don't see any reason to pull that. What do we have here? The computer? You know what? I think I'm going to look in the manual about replacing the computer and see. That's what that is. Let's see if it discusses how to remove that panel. Just for fun. Let me do that. Look, I say I apologize, but one of the things I meant to mention in the prelude to this thing is, like usual, anytime you start opening up things, it gives you access to other things. For instance, you can see how rusty this is, so I'll be cleaning and painting that. That looks terrible. I hate rust. That's the passenger, no, it's called the restraints control module. So that's an airbag module is what that is. But I'm looking around on YouTube, I don't see a whole lot about it, so I think I'm just going to do a little separate video on both these little things. If I can figure out how to do shorts, maybe I'll just do little shorts on them, because they're only just, what's it going to be, a couple minutes to show either one of those getting to that sucker. Anyway, so that's what that is. The PCM's actually mounted on the firewall up there on the right side of the engine compartment. So finally we got that sucker out of there, and I'm going to go ahead and remove my glove box, which is a matter of pushing these over and then taking out some screws. I want to pull everything out of there so it doesn't dump on the ground. Then I'll get that side panel out of there and pull this panel off there, and then these big bolts over here, and like I said, that trim panel up there. And alright, well, we'll start with that, and I guess I'll pull that, and I can clean that and paint it, so it'll be sitting for a while. Also got to take care, in case you haven't done that, which why would you have? When I took these panels off, the hood release and supposedly the parking brake levers, got these two little bolts, they'll have to come out. Not sure about that. Secret hidden switch. Alright, and that other little panel. Well, let's do a few of those and we'll come back. Alright, over here we got 4 Phillips screws. Pop that off of here. This thing just pops out with a Christmas tree fastener, and that is it. That gets to this bolt right here, and you can see in there now, and we got access to some other stuff. Sorry, another quick detour. Have you ever heard of the fuel shutoff inertial switch or fuel cutoff switch or whatever on your Ford? there it is right there. It's that little sucker right there. You see that little orange line? That little orange line means it's in its run position. It'll be popped up over the top where you can't push it down if it's tripped. It's designed to shut the electricity off to your fuel pump relay, so your fuel pump won't run if you get in a wreck. However, unfortunately, apparently, all you have to do is have bad shocks, hit a pothole, somebody slam into the side of the shopping cart or something, and sometimes it'll trip that. So if you have gone somewhere and all of a sudden your engine won't start, and possibly somebody has slapped it, or if you run into something or whatever, and you can safely drive away, if you could just start it, you just come in here and check that, push that little sucker back down, and you should be good to go. Exploring as we go, as I like to do. Also find money. Almost $1 now. Alright, continuing on, we'll pull that bolt. And we may have to pull the vacuum plug here, I think, as this comes away. Yeah, we'll have to pull the vacuum plug and see what else. Perhaps that plugged, and it's going to be that nut. Yep, that nut right there. And oh yeah, all that stuff over there. So let's get to going here. All right, remove that plug in there. You just need to reach up in there and push something up against that. So that releases that, and that'll come out of there. This vacuum little manifold, it's got a little rubber pushy thing at the top. You don't want to leave that alone. You just push this, wobble it back and forth, and you get that off of there. Hopefully that all stays intact. So those two things are loose. And when I put this back together, you can see some of the vacuum actuators here. Before I put this back together, I'm gonna run my air conditioning heating system, make sure everything's working. You see the big door back there. There's a big lever that opens that door right there. Make sure that works. Alright, 8mm bolts are here, and I am definitely not putting that back up looking like that. And I just can't help it. I beef about this every time I work on the Fords. For crying out loud, make up your mind. Metric, SAE. Doesn't make any sense to me. Just when they build things in China, they go, oh, they're built to American technical specifications. Well, I'm pretty sure Americans don't specify things in metric. We don't use metric over here. Why can't they make SAE hardware in China or Canada or wherever? In this case, Canada. Or just do it all in Canadian. All of it in metric. Crying out loud. Fords have SAE hardware on one side, they'll have metrics on the other side of something. It just doesn't make any sense. Drives me nuts. Someday maybe somebody can explain it to me. Okay, end of rant. 8mm. Pain in the butt. And the yoke, once again, 13mm nuts. Let's get a make this whole thing drop down. I guess that allows the panel to come out separate from that or something. We'll see. What's that over there? Another 8mm. And I don't know if that goes up in there or something. I've seen somebody take it out, so maybe. Yeah, it's got a bolt up there too. So some of those two 8mm bolts. To get this thing out, I'm using a plastic putty knife and then sliding my big screwdriver up underneath it, all the way up in there, and to pop those things up. Shouldn't do any damage, especially since it's just got one little crack I'll have to do something with. Other than that, it's in good shape. Okay, well, it was going good until it wasn't. These corners are a real bitch. That's what hold up. These parts in the back just slide in, but as I started going along, things started cracking on me. And this one got stuck. That one ain't coming out. So when I had to pry up in here to get those two corners out. Luckily didn't break the whole thing. And once I got those out, this thing just pulls right out. But Boy, that certainly isn't as easy as it looked from the other guys. And now, there's some bolts up there. I don't know, let me look. Oh, sneaky, sneaky. Okay, well, there's apparently some 13mm bolts back there, so I'm assuming there's going to be one on that side too. Maybe 7mm ones too. Let me get those out and see what happens. It's a little short guy. I always keep a magnet standing by so you can reach down here and grab it as you go. Let me go find the other one. Hell, maybe remove these little bolts for nothing. Let's see. Okay, there's the position of that, and I got a warpy, floppy extension on there. It's a good thing too, because it looks like that bolt's tilting out a little bit. Now I'm putting another extension on here so I can get out here without whacking the windshield. Oh, this one's a bigger bolt though. Keep track of that. And maybe, looks like maybe those two little bolts there. Go look on the other side. That's definitely going to take a maggot. 7mm. Could very well be, because it ain't going anywhere yet. Alright, looks like we got another. You can see where that is. Another 13mm bolt right there. Jeez. Looks like it's getting there. I'll get ready. Another one of them long bolts. Take that out. This whole thing fell off. Well, it didn't do any damage to anything. Yeah, I took these out for nothing. I'll go ahead and put those bolts back in again. Wow. Okay. We'll do that first and then see if I can get to anything on that side over there. That's interesting. Well, hopefully I'm not yanking anything over there. I thought maybe I'd pulled something, but that's just the throttle cable. Not sure. Hopefully nothing else needs to be pulled, or I'm breaking anything over there. This can be actually picked up and pulled back towards you a little bit. Antenna, cable, airbox is in there. Indoor actuator. Interesting. Well, I guess I'll have to do a little more looking, because this box has to come back out for sure, which means that I do have to go back in there, but I don't know what the deal with that is. Another heater core is in there. Take a peek over here, see where it is. It's right there under this part of the windshield wiper blade, so yeah, it's gonna be in there somewhere. Alright, let me do some more research. Probably gonna have to pull these little bolts off, which means this whole thing is gonna definitely have to come back. I'd make a note, there's an 11mm nut up in there. I would go ahead and take that out before you drop the panel when you first get under here and start looking at it, because now you gotta reach up under here and get it. There's bound to be something else. Hold on. Okay, another back in time little video once I've already done this whole thing, so now I can show you for sure absolutely what has to be done. These are 7/16. There's this nut here, nut there, nut down at the bottom. You'll see a little hole at the back of the insulation there. There's another one there. When you pull this back, now I didn't have to take any of this apart. As you pull this back, it's a little tricky, but there's a nut on this stud behind it up against the firewall, same down there. There's another stud underneath here. So once you get this back here, you can get access to that one and squeeze around to get to those two. That'll release that cover on the inside. The whole air box with that nut at the bottom will allow you to pull that back out and monkey it around. So as you see me monkeying around with all this fumbling to where I'm getting to, that is where I'm going to end up. Okay, so back into the engine compartment. Short of one bolt. So there's going to be a 13mm nut there, one down there, and in that little hole back in there. And there's supposedly somewhere else. One else. I happen to have the inside wheel cover off because I'm trying to figure out where this vacuum line, which I found vacuum hose landing here. I gotta figure out where it goes. But that, you can see that bolt head-ish thing up there, that's that nut we took off on the inside. So we'll just take those 4 off and see where it's holding on. And we may have to take these up out of the way and get this whole thing back a little bit, but we'll see. Okay, well, there's only 3 on this assembly in mine. It's got this bolt and those 2 there, and the reason I get that off of there is because there's nuts back there and the one below it. Just those 2. This pops right back out. It's possible to get those off of there, reach around with a 13mm wrench and reach down there and spin it off, but it'd be easier if you can come out a little farther. You know, I don't think it's gonna make any difference if I remove this. So I'm gonna do it without removing those. This looks like it's banging into whatever. Something's holding it up. So I'm just gonna get a wrench and reach around behind those. Always keep my magnet nearby. Should be able to get those out. When I say 13mm, oh, that would be way too easy. They're actually 12mm. You know, all these things are really, really loose too. All the 13mm nuts, you can almost take them off by hand. Like, all you do is just think about starting them and they come right loose. And I'll be able to pull this back out of the way, but I want to get my magnet right there too, just in case. Oh, peekaboo! There's another one right back there. That's the 5th one or whatever. Another 13mm. Oh wait, did I say 13mm? No, it's a 12. No, it's 11mm or a 7/16. These people are gonna drive me absolutely crazy. I can't have anything the same. Alright, let's go back inside and we can pull on something, see if anything's loose. Alright, so I got this thing loose, flopping around in here. It's just hanging on and hanging on. It looks like it's this bracket right here is catching up there. I just got to wobble it around a little more. There's a flange that sticks up. Yeah, that's riveted on there, so probably going to have to go up in there and push that or pry up on that to get it to come the rest of the way. Yeah, there's the rest of this you can just hold on to like that. Now the steering wheel, I guess, is holding it over there. I'll put something up under it to support it when I get this out back enough. That's what I did. I pried up under here by holding this thing up. I think these 4 bolts, 5. The only things that have to come off to get that off of there, and the heater core drops in there. So let's see what size those are. Well, I'm too lazy to go find the metric one. 5/16 on my 1/4 inch is going to work just fine. I have to put an extension on that to reach this one, but there's one down there. In fact, I'll get my extension. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be a lot easier to do them. A lot of work just to get in the one little panel, huh? Just start the foam. And voila! See, I hope this thing actually does leak. Oh, cool. Bleeding again. I'd hate to think I did all that for nothing. And of course, this is going to have to be dropped somehow to get this up and out of there. So I'm going to pick this up, move it over, manipulate that whole thing, and try to wiggle it on out of there. Of course, that'd be too easy. This won't come back far enough. I got to move this out of the way. I think I'm going to have to untether it from the steering column. I think there's 2 more big nuts under there. Should be able to lift that up and bring this over, because this has got to come back to get those 2 ports Two little tubes out of there. Alright, theoretically, get these two bolts out, I'll release this. There's one. Can you see that? There. Nut right there. And then there's another one behind the other end of that support, which is really hard to see, but follow that support over. And I believe that'll allow the steering column to come loose from the instrument panel, allow it to pivot a little bit, I hope. I took the inside nut off. I didn't take the other one off because I didn't want to turn it completely loose, and I was able to get this maneuver down. Get that sucker out of there. You can see where the foam goes now. I'm gonna get some air blaster in here and clean all this out. See if I can put this back together and sort of get it pushed on up in there before the sun goes down on me. Alright, so the next step, verify it's the same. A little closer together. That's a little concerning because I start to pry those things apart. It might crack a little now. So I'm gonna have to. Jeez. I should have been able to put hoses on them if they're that close. Two hoses, two 3/4 inch hoses aren't gonna go up in there. Oh great, let me see if I can break this thing and then I'll go ahead and glue this thing around. You see it's not going to be the same. Of course it's not going to be the same. They couldn't make it the same way. See if we can get it back up in there after I blow it out. Alright, very gently pry those apart a little bit. And you may not look like you have enough foam, but when you start to apply this, pull the backing off, you stretch it out. It stretches literally when you stretch it out, so it gets plenty. So there's that ready to go. I'm actually going to write a date on this thing in case anybody in history does it again. And I gotta blow that thing out first. May have to suck it out. We'll see how it goes. I got a shot back in there. Alright, so while we're here, let's do a little quick run around. I'm running out of light, so I'm going to have to hang it up for the night. But let's take a look behind here. Oh, this is all plastic. The mounting points are plastic. There's a connector I see loose down here. That is a vacuum plug which goes up to what looks like an electrical connector on the firewall and that little white thing there, but it's just vacuum. They plug in just like electrical connectors. So it's interesting. It looks like this is all plastic. You'll notice over there my arch enemy is rust. Anything that's coated in rust like that, I'm going to take my can of WD-40 and hose it down. Try to stop it from doing that anymore. As well as the bolts, I'll probably hit them. Look, there's the air conditioning evaporator core. Another fun thing to get off. Blower wheel. Oop, I'm going to blow up in there too. Clean that out. Blow most of the stuff out, but a little more looks like I have to do. And like I said, all that rusty stuff. If it didn't come out where I can clean it and paint it, oh, I'm stuck. Stuff like this. This is all going to get a little coating of WD-40. As far as the electrical stuff, WD-40 actually is a water displacement, so it prevents short circuits and things like that. So I'll get in here. Look at that plastic. Hit all that. Like I said, I only removed one bolt. See all this nasty stuff which you can't really get to. I'll try to get in there, maybe a little wire brush or something, and brush it down. If not, I'm just going to hose it with some WD-40, anything that looks like it's got rust. And aluminum. Aluminum I love to cover. WD-40. Anyway, looks like I'm almost ready to slide that on back in there, put the cover on it, and then maybe push this thing up a little bit. And that'll be about it. If I can get all this stuff sprayed down. Start over in the morning.
Lovely. Well, it took a day, but well, I started at noon. It's sun's getting ready to go down, so it's after 5. So I got 5 hours minus lunch, an hour and a half or something. So who knows, 3.5, 4 hours while I'm poking around and doing some sightseeing as I'm in here. Alright, that's it for now. Okay. Maybe cut those. Looks like they're gonna have to be spread out a little bit more. Fit in there. I think the cover will pretty much take care of that. Anyway. Yeah, screw that down, that'll tighten it all in. Alright, the core's in, cover's on it. Now last act for this evening is going to be to try to get that, at least the stud stuck through the firewall so that I could move this instrument panel over and support it with something. I doubt I'll get it back up in place, but yeah, maybe I'll get a bolt in it. But I'll be satisfied with that. That's as far as I get. I don't remember what I said about these. They're all 7/16. Inside and outside. I don't remember what I said before. One down there. Nut behind there. Nut behind there. Nut behind here. And then the 3. 1, 2, 3 on the outside. One over there. We're installed from the outside. We've got the air box in. So that's going to do it for tonight. I got to put all this stuff away. Then I got spread out all over the place. I got this thing supported. Hopefully I can close the door. If not, I'm going to have to maneuver this around a little bit. But that's going to be it for tonight. I'll show up again in the morning. And we'll see if we can get this knocked out by noon. Okay, instrument panel's back in place mostly. 13 millimeters of 2 big bolts there. 2 big bolts up there. I've got the 2 nuts. Also 13 millimeter on the back yoke of this steering column. These 2, I've just got one here to hold it up, but I'm going to paint that yoke before I put that in. Around the other side, this is basically the same thing I did on that other video, but I'll show you when it's all installed now. That bolt up there, this bolt down here, which turns out to be the short one. I'm not so sure that that wasn't up in the top panel, I can't remember. Then there's this 17 millimeter nut that goes up under there. This will end up pulling if you don't pull it already. These 2 connectors are already been pulled, so they'll be reinstalled. You really need 2 people because this thing will be flopping around. I'm going to pick that side up, pick this side up, get the bolts started in the top, which are a pain in the butt. But once you get them going up there, as far as I know, everything's hunky-dory. I pulled a little wire over there. I think it has to do with the fog lights or something, or I'm not sure. I'll figure that out one of these days. And now that I have that in there, I can, oh yeah, and I pulled the glove box. Got to talk about that. But that's installed. Now I'm going to do some painting. I've sprayed all the rusty parts up under there with WD-40 and aluminum parts. So hopefully they won't rust any farther. It's just a little surface rust anyway, but I hate rusty parts. Then I can proceed with building my panels stuff and put them back in there. So, good to go. Alright, and one little difference in mine, since the heater core is disconnected and they just put a bypass hose, I can put the 2 plugs back on there and drain my coolant system and service it, which you always want to do after you change the heater core. At my leisure, I can put this whole thing back together and drive it around a little bit if I want to. It is starting to be cooler out though, so I'm going to want the heater working. So I'll go ahead and I got to go buy some heater hose. Apparently I didn't do that yet. Figure out which one of those goes where. I don't think it really matters, but this forward one probably goes to the left and the other one to the right. Now in the factory installation, the factory hoses have two little tiny coolant hoses that go to your intake manifold over there. I don't need that and don't need to heat the intake up down here in Florida, and that's one of the first things they do for the C4 Corvettes is disconnect that because it robs you of power. You want cool, not hot there anyway. So right now I got to proceed to the other stuff on the panel. As far as the heater core goes, that pretty much wraps it up for the heater core part, and hopefully that'll help you out with all my little idiosyncrasies involved in there. So alright, till the next one. Good luck.